Hey, what's up, Dresden fans? Mike back to talk a little more Dresden Files. Now, look, guys, I don't think I've kept it a secret that I do not really care about doing tier lists, but what I do care about is giving the people what they want. And apparently, people wanted me to do a Dresden Files tier list. I told them, okay, I only done one of these so far, and I did Wheel of Time after much badgering about it. And so I said, I tell you what, after Battleground comes out, and I've had a little bit of time to let it sink in where I should probably put that at, then I'll go ahead and do it. Well, the time is nigh. I talked to Jim Butcher last week sometime, and it was a great time, and it really made me think, okay, I think I'm finally ready to rank these things now. So I'm going to do that. First, I want to give you guys a spoiler warning. A lot of people have been like, well, are you going to do this without spoilers? Look, I can't really tell you why I'm ranking them where they are without doing some spoilers. So if you just want to know the rankings, and you want no spoilers, I'll put a timestamp where you can jump straight to the end where it shows you the rankings, and you don't have to listen to me tell you why I put them there. Otherwise, read the series, guys. It's a great series. I really think that you should, and you shouldn't let me spoil it for you because there are lots of twists and turns to get there that I think that you'll enjoy learning on your own. Now, let me give you that little breakdown here of what my tier rankings actually stand for. Okay, now in most instances, you're going to see S, A, B, C, D with your tier list. So I just like to explain what I'm doing here. Obviously, Fuego is going to be your cream of the crop. These are going to be the amazing books, the books that I think I will read time and time again. Then you got Knights of the Cross. Now, this is books that I think are really, really excellent. In most other series, it'll probably be about as good as you're going to get. Starborn is one of those where I feel like it could go either way. I can see it going up into Knights of the Cross. I can see it maybe going down to the next section, which is Send It to Demon Reach, which is one, say I was in jail and I only had these copies of the books available. Yeah, I'd probably go ahead and give them a try. But if I had these options above, I'd probably pick those before I would pick that one. And then you got Only Rudolph Likes This. That's one's basically don't touch. Pretty much don't ever pick them up again and do not recommend them. So obviously that's going to be the most extreme of situations here. But I did want to actually include that. So not as traditional as everyone else, but hey, we try to. I'm not going to do this as much as everyone else out there, so I try to mix it up a little bit if I can. Now, I do want to say up front, guys, I am not an expert on this. I didn't start reading the series until December of 2019, so I'm not quite as well versed as a lot of the crazy Dresden fans who've been waiting since the 2000s for each one of these new releases. So I'm not a genius at this. It's just my opinion. I'd rather you guys tell me your rankings instead of telling me why mine suck. But of course, if you hate it, don't be scared to tell me how you feel. That's fine. Also, I read these all really quick together, so if I get some books mixed up or I get a couple of facts wrong, hey, try not to crucify me. Remember, I just ran through these all in the course of a year, and I'm going strictly off of memory because taking notes, that's not really my thing. Here we go, guys. Let's go ahead and kick it off with Stormfront. Now, I think this is one that you're going to see obviously pretty low on most people's lists. You usually see Stormfront and Full Moon really it is number 16 and number 17 on these lists. By the way, guys, I'm not doing the side stuff. This is just the novels before you ask. Okay, because I haven't read them. Yeah, so jump on me for that. I'm going to put Stormfront on Send It to Demon Reach because it's one of those things I feel like a lot of people chase off new readers this because they tell them, oh, well, the first two books aren't that good. Here's the thing. I think your first read through, these books are good. It's just having that knowledge of where the series is going to go to. You kind of look back at it and you're like, wow, that was really low level. So I feel like that's what a lot of people kind of get chased off on that one for. But I don't think it's necessarily that bad. It's a good introduction to the world. You get to see Marcone. You get your introduction to Marcone right away. I liked him. I really felt like it was that Angel Investigations meets John Constantine's Hellblazer. That's really what the series was sold to me as, and I think that's a perfectly well-placed description of how it is here in the early going with Stormfront. Next up, we got Full Moon. Again, this is almost always in everybody's bottom tier of their ranking. For me, I'm going to say yes, it's the lowest here, but I'm still not ready to put it in the very, very bottom because it's still highly readable. There's lots of things that I did like about it, namely the introduction to the alphas, who end up being important all through this series. I think you see them come back. Every few books, you start to see some of those characters come back. So their introduction is important, and I think it pays dividends much, much later. Next up, we've got Grave Peril. Guys, this is one I feel like a lot of people always say the series got good at book 4. For me, the series got really good at Grave Peril. So much so that I'm putting this up here on Knights of the Cross because I love how he basically he expanded his universe here. You really got into the vampires and stuff. It isn't just, okay, we're going to be doing these cases of people who've seen like weird phenomena kind of thing. And it showed that he was going to actually start to branch out into a larger universe. I like that. I like the introduction of Michael, who is my favorite Dresden Files character, not named Harry. I'm very excited that this was his first trip, and I loved him like almost immediately. I fell in love with this character. And if I recall correctly, the Never Never was mentioned in the first 2 books, but I believe this is the first time as the reader we go along with Harry into the Never Never. So that's one that I always have a fond memory of, because it took it from like, yeah, it's decent to, oh, okay, I could really see myself getting into this one. Now, this will be the first one that probably makes people want to turn this off. Summer Night is a very, very popular book within this fandom. For me, I'm not wild about the fairy court stuff. I love the vampire stuff. I love the White Council stuff. I love all of that. The fairy stuff is like third tier for me. I'm not nuts about it. I've grown to like parts of it. But right up here early, it was not really working for me. But it's one of those, I think, over time, I've come to appreciate it a little more. But again, it's nothing that I'm going to put it near the bottom. It's kind of mid-tier for me here. So I think there's a proper place for it is Starborn. So lots to like there, I think. But for me, I couldn't get really into that. Even if it did really have the first appearance of Elaine, who is another character I'm just kind of lukewarm on. I feel like the only reason that I like Elaine is because Butcher keeps telling me that I'm supposed to like her. There are many other women in Harry's life that I latch onto much earlier than I latched onto to Elaine. So that might have played into it too. Now, Death Mask. Guys, if you want full breakdowns of these, I've done reviews for every single one, like spoiler reviews for every single book like this. So if you're looking for something like that, just check out the playlist on the channel here. Death Mask was the book that took this series from I like it to I love it. So this is my first Fuego entry here. I absolutely was nuts for this book the first time I read it. It was your intro to the Knights of the Cross. It was, when you kind of learned about it a little bit with Michael, but you got to meet the other two, rather. You got to see that bond that Harry developed with Shiro, which I liked quite a bit. But for me, what really sealed it was Nicodemus. Nicodemus was the first villain in this series that I really thought was well done. Like, really, really well done. I thought that he could be like the big bad on a season of Buffy good. And that's why he's probably my favorite overarching villain of this entire series, and he started right here. And this was where I really just fell in love, and it was full speed ahead for me. Because I was doing like 1 book a month this time. I kind of pushed up like $2 a month so I could get there before Peace. This is when I decided I think I'm going to try to catch up before Peace Talks comes out. So yeah, nothing but fond memories there. As for Blood Rights, I feel like this is one that's kind of a bad reputation a little bit. There are parts, but I don't really care for the case in this one. That's one with like the porn studio. The case is rather boring in this one to me, but I really like this stuff with Thomas, obviously. The family revelations, Harry getting to talk to his mother in a way. That was heart-wrenching stuff. And yeah, the revelation about Thomas completely caught me off guard. I was not expecting that whatsoever. So I was very, very satisfied with that. And of course, we got our introduction to Mouse. And who doesn't love Mouse? I mean, the whole book, all I'm thinking about is Harry fighting these crazy battles with a little pup in his pocket. I mean, what's more adorable than that? Deadbeat. This is obviously a very, very special one to a lot of people. And I like it quite a bit. I'm not ready to put it in Fuego, though. I'm going to put it in Knights of the Cross just because of one reason, guys. It's not letting me do this, is it? Here. I like to put it up ahead of Grave Peril. Deadbeat's one of those, I think it was hyped so much, my expectations are a little high. But that isn't really why I'm going to put a knock against it. It's one of those, I feel like, when you go back after you've caught up current with the series and you look back at it, you say, holy hell, so much started in that book. But on my first reading, I was like, it was good, but it wasn't like Change is good or anything, right? It was really, really good. But again, I got to give it a knock just because on first reading, it didn't completely blow my pants off. But looking back at it, I see it's right there, fringe on being in the top tier here for me. But again, a very, very important book. I think, like I say, kind of a launching pad to some of the bigger parts of this series. Obviously, you get your introduction to Cowl, who's a very important villain who we still haven't seen the next part of. First appearance of Ramirez, a character that I think a lot of us have come to really love. And then Butters. I mean, Butters goes from being kind of like a cameo to like having his moment here. And I mean, Polka will never die. That's got to be a top 5 moment in the series, right? Who didn't love that moment? Proving Guilty, I feel like is kind of the ugly duckling of this series because I thought it was fantastic and no one talks about it. Everyone just kind of always shrugs it off. They always want to talk about Deadbeat and they never talk about Proving Guilty. Me being a big horror movie guy, I thought the horror movie nods were fantastic. Molly becoming a main character, obviously a very good moment. The Arctic tourist assault, how about a little fire scarecrow? These are things I loved all of them, and I look back at it and I was like, I had a hell of a time with that. In fact, I still reference SplatterCon like all the time. I love SplatterCon. It's such a cool thing. SplatterCon is something I totally could have seen myself going to. So I thought it was a really, really good book, and I don't know why more people don't have it higher on their list. So that's probably one of the most underrated ones in the series, I think. And it's followed by one of the most overrated ones in the series. This is probably going to be the first shocker for you guys. White Knight is, if it wasn't for Full Moon, this would be my least favorite book in the series. I don't know what it was about it. I admitted that I might have been suffering a little bit from some burnout. I liked the story with the backstory with the ghouls and why Harry hates them. Obviously, that's really good. Harry and Marcone, anytime they got to team up, it's really good stuff. But I felt like the case in that one just kind of dragged it down. Once you found out that Thomas really wasn't the culprit, it was just kind of like, I don't really know. It kind of felt like a meanders. And I don't know, again, if it's a coincidence or if it's just Elaine that really brings some of these books down. Every time Elaine is in one of these books, she just kind of brings it down for me. I don't know if that's... Again, I don't hate the character. I'm just kind of indifferent on her, and I don't really care that much when she shows up. So I'm sure Jim will change my mind about that in the future with the whole Starborn thing, but we'll get there when we get there, right? So, yes, first real shocker, I think, is White Knight. It's just one that just never really clicked with me. Then you get to one of my heavy hitters here. Look, I think that Small Favor was exactly what I did. After I was kind of like lukewarmish on White Knight, Small Favor was a home run. I loved it. Anytime, look guys, cheat code for me. Every 5 books you're going to get the Denarians. It's probably going to be a Fuego ranking for me because I love the Denarian storyline. I think, again, it makes me think of some of the better seasons of Buffy. It's what it really feels like. It could have been some kind of faction or villains on a season of Buffy, and I love it. I just love Nicodemus. I love getting more about the Denarians and stuff. So many big things happen in this book. Michael's accident, obviously the big one. The introduction to Uriel. Big stuff happens in this, and it's some of the best. If I recall correctly, is that our first introduction to Demon Reach? Is that book? Because I think that's where the assault happens, where Michael gets injured, I believe. Again, I read these so fast, some things might be bleeding together a little bit. But yeah, I love that book. That's such a good one. I could see myself rereading that again someday. Let's get on the Turncoat. Another one I feel like has kind of become an ugly duckling just because it happened between such a great book in Small Favor and a great book in Changes, where I feel like Turncoat, no one ever really kind of talks about it. I'd put it right in between Proving Guilty and Grave Peril here. I thought there was tons of things, like obviously Harry working with Morgan. That's the good one. I felt like it was almost... I don't want to say that they liked each other, but I felt like over the time, it felt like they had developed a grudging respect for one another. They'd never admitted to each other, but obviously with their parting moment, it was heartfelt. It felt like the first big loss in the series. And yeah, it was one that you felt like a bond between those two, that you never thought that Butcher would be able to get you there, but he did, because he's just that good at writing some of these characters. But it felt like the first real detective story since earlier in the season, real whodunit. And I really liked that, the whole stuff with Peabody and stuff. It was really, really good stuff. And I feel like it's kind of underrated because of what comes next. Now, Changes. I think the Changes, let me think about this one for a second. What Changes, you want to talk about a book being hyped to the moon. I mean, look, I hadn't even started Stormfront yet, and everyone's like, I can't wait to get to Changes. I'm like, well, shit, I got 11 books before that, So I had so many expectations, just like Deadbeat, because a lot of people will say Changes and Deadbeat were like their favorite 2 books. Changes is that rare case where something is overly hyped, and somehow it still meets them. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't have this as their favorite Dresden book. Well, they won't let me put it on there. It completely blew me away. Even knowing that big things were going to happen in this book, huge things happen in this book. I mean, the whole Winter Night part, that was absolutely just brutal. Felt like Harry losing his humanity, breaking his back. The war with the Red Court, that holy shit of an ending. Every bit met the hype and exceeded it somehow. And that's just impressive that he was able to do this. In book 12 of your series, you're able to change things this much, and it's just phenomenal. And R.I.P. Blue Beetle. You know, it was the perfectly named book. It really was. It was the first one I think didn't have two words to do a book, and it encapsulates exactly what that title was. And I can't. I mean, I did a reaction video for it for the last 2 chapters because people really wanted me to do that. In fact, Jim Butcher, that's actually how he found the channel, was me doing that. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the ending is one of the most shocking ever. I mean, not just the ending, but like the last 2 chapters of the ending were just completely just like, oh yeah, you just couldn't believe what just happened. And it was a really good time. Now, Ghost Story, this is one that I was told when I first started this, yeah, the whole series is great. It just gets better and better, except for Ghost Story. That one's kind of bad. So I wasn't sure what to expect. I looked at it and I was like, okay, it looks like it's like the longest book at the time. I think there were only 15 of them out. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen here. But I read it and I was blown away by how much I enjoyed it. I really thought it was a good book. It was the character study I've been waiting for. I wouldn't quite put it up there and towards the top. It's somewhere about right here between Turncoat and Grey Peril. I felt like it was the character study I'd been waiting for Butcher to write on Harry. And we got all of his delicious backstory that I've been waiting for. And I really felt like, you know, the whole walking through the door part of it, if this had been where he decided to end the series, it would have been a fitting ending. It was really good. I thought it was a beautifully told story. And over time, I've realized that a lot of people's negative criticism of that book are the audiobook only folks. And they were upset that James Marshers didn't read that audiobook because he had a conflict and he couldn't make it. I think that's a really shitty reason to be down on a book, obviously. But as just reading these and not listening to them, I got a ton of stuff I wanted out of it. It's exactly what I felt like I needed, and it didn't feel like a cheat, you know, a get out of jail free card for Harry, you know, dying at the end of the last book. So it was a really well thought out way that he did it, and you know, the whole box in the mind thing completely made changes even better somehow. So I've got nothing but great things to say about Ghost Story, and I feel like it gets disrespected for all of the wrong reasons. Now, if you guys were paying attention earlier when I talked about Summer Night, you know how I feel about the Fairy Court. Look, again, it's just not my favorite. I think that Cold Days is a very, very well-written book, and a lot of important stuff happens. I'm just never going to click quite with the Fairy Court like I do with the other stuff. So I'm going to kind of put it at the front of Starborn here. I think that'd be the best place for it. Lots of great things happen in that book. I mean, the Winter Night Training is some of the good stuff. His reunion with Thomas is like almost got like a tear out of me. It was so good. And I think Shag Nasty, I think the Nagloshi, is that what it's called? I think he called it the Shag Nasty. I think that's one of the best like one-off kind of villains he has, which, you know, in this universe it'll probably show up again. But I really enjoyed that kind of monster of the week there. I always say after big episodes of like Supernatural or Buffy, you always need like that monster of the week. And this is kind of what it felt like. But then you get into all your big stuff with the courts, and it's very important stuff. So I understand why this is some people's favorite in the series, this and Summer Night. If you're really about the winter and summer courts, it's everything you wanted. It was better than Summer Night. It really was like the sequel to Summer Night. So I can see why people have it constantly listed so high. But for me, yeah, I'm taking any of these above it, before it. Next up, and again, guys, if you just got a series this long, you're going to have some books that are really great and would be the best book in other series, and you got to have something to put down here, right? Let's move along here. What do we got next? Skin Game. Guys, I could not believe it. But first, of course, you got Daenerys. So you think, okay, well, that's a cheat code. So you know it's going up the top. Where's it going, though? It almost passes Death Mask for me just because I love a good heist story. And I don't know about you guys, but my parents made me go to Sunday school as a kid. So all of the religious artifact stuff, loved it a lot. I had so many holy shit moments. Just a great time. I love a good heist story. I love getting more of the Denarians, and I can't wait to see them inevitably show back up again in books 20 and presumably 25, because as you notice the trend here, if it's got Nicodemus in it, it's probably going to be a Fuego book for me. I love that book. I can't wait to reread that one because I think it's going to have so many implications for the remainder of the series. I mean, we've already seen a couple of them, you know. Let's move on here to Peace Talks. This is a book when it came out, I thought people were being overly harsh on it. I can understand where they were coming from because I didn't have to wait 4 years, guys. I didn't have to wait 4 years for this book. So it wasn't that big. Literally, because I got the advanced reader copy, I got it literally days after I finished Skin Game. It's not a flex or anything. I'm just saying that's why it didn't bother me quite as much. Having some time to think about it, I'd probably still put it down here because it does feel like a little bit of just a setup, you know, for the next book. I put it at the top of Demon Reach. Is that it's very, very highly readable. I enjoyed the most parts of it. I really did enjoy. I really liked his fight with Ebenezer. That was something that you knew had been coming, and you hated it. You don't like to see family fight. It almost felt like, you know, Dad just smacked Mom at the dinner table and everyone's trying to pretend like everything's okay. Harry and Murphy finally becoming a thing. I was all for Harry and Murphy, so I was all for that. But again, looking back at it now, I can see if you really treat Peace Talks and Battleground as one book, it's obviously going to be higher. But for now, I think I would put it, you know, right there in between Stormfront, Blood Rights, where it had some things I liked, but it had some things I didn't really care for. And then you get into Battleground, guys. Now, this is what I wanted to wait for, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't like recency bias. You know, it's one of those things where you read a new book in a series and it's really, really good. And so you're like, oh, it's the best book. You know, it's the best book in the series. I'm not ready to go there, but I will say it is a top 5 Dresden book for me. It is one where the name definitely does not cheat you at all. It really had that Avengers Endgame feel where he took his whole universe, his whole sandbox, and he said, we're going to throw them all in there. We aren't going to hold any punches. We ain't got to worry about like contractual obligations with my characters. All of them can show up at the same time. So you had that huge like Endgame moment, Avengers Assemble kind of moment that really was something you've been waiting for, and it was worth it. Oh man, I got to talk about it, don't I? They had a meaningful death. That's the thing is I say that series like this that go this long, you need to have some impactful, meaningful deaths. And the one he gives us, it mattered. You know, it sucked. It hurt because I knew I'd been saying in my review. Go back and watch those reviews. I kept saying I feel like Joss Whedon went to the. Or I'm sorry, I felt like Jim Butcher went to the school of Joss Whedon. And what Joss Whedon always says is Buffy is happy, show is okay. Buffy is miserable, show is brilliant. And I feel like Harry's going to be getting too happy here. Something bad's got to happen. So, you know, as soon as him and Murphy finally get together, she gets taken away from him. And that's just a crusher. But obviously, the new spin for Marcone was a brilliant one. That's why I'm going to put it right about here. Not ready quite to put it above Skin Game yet, which I just adore. But yeah, it would definitely be a top 5 Dresden book for me. Hit all of the emotional beats, hit all of the action beats. It was everything that I wanted it to be. And I'm at the uncomfortable position now where everybody, like everyone else, I have to wait for the next Dresden Files book. And yes, you might be noticing, but you don't even have anything in the bottom tier. Yes, guys, it might feel like a cheat to you, but I think this series is just that good. There are no books in this series I wouldn't reread. I really feel like this is a special series for that reason. Everything is rereadable. And a lot of those early books, I feel like you can just do a one-off. Hey, I'm just going to read a book. Let me just pick up one of these and I could probably read it. You don't have to have all of those previous threads to know everything. Again, it's just a fantastic series. And if I was being honest, I probably have everything in the top 3 tiers. But, you know, I was trying to give, you know, a little bit of drama here. So, anyhow, that's kind of where I stand, guys. That'd be very interesting in knowing where you stand with them. I hope that you will stick around and talk to me about how you would rank them. I'm fine if you want to tell me why mine suck. I'm sure that Winter Night one and that Cold Days one will probably really rub people the wrong way, and Summer Night, of course. But that's fine. It's my list. This is just how I feel about it. You were asking me to rank them 1 through 17. This is how I would do it, top to bottom, left to right. And I can't wait to hear you guys. So thanks for watching with me. I hope we don't have too long of a wait before the next one, but we'll see, right, guys? So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you in the comments.